the Garden Report. These Celtics are out of the in-season tournament. They are not going to Vegas. They are going to come back to Boston and look themselves in the mirror, Jimmy, after a second half
Bobby?
meltdown.
You're not going to Vegas either. I'm so sorry to see that. You looked like you even got a haircut. You were ready to go. Like you probably had your Vegas outfit picked out too. Sherrod Blakely in the building.
Hat was
What's
ready.
up, Sherrod? The hat was ready.
I was so torn coming into this one. I did a preview this morning with Caitlin, who's a great Celtics, a great Pacers writer, and it felt like it was going to be a battle between the Celtics' ability to handle the ball and be competent on offense versus the Pacers' inability to defend at all. And you saw both of those through different stretches in this game. The Celtics turned it up late in the second, took that almost double-digit lead there. And then the Pacers took advantage of Celtics' sloppiness. And frankly, Tatum and Brown playing completely disconnected basketball there in the third. Now, everyone's going to come at me and say, oh, Tatum had, what was his final stat line?
Yeah, like
32, 12, and 6. But he got passive in that second half, even late, launching the threes. Didn't draw enough free throws. The Celtics only shoot 12 of those to Indiana's 21. When the Pacers come into this game, allowing 28 a game, which was last in the NBA. So not a forceful enough effort. Didn't get the Pacers into mismatches nearly enough and kept them within a possession for too much of this game. And you knew Indiana was going to come in and be able to rip off basket after basket after basket. And then we can get to crunch time, which was just a disaster for Boston here. But Sherrod, this is a bad loss.
Well, it's a bad loss, but Bobby, I think one of the things that we can't lose sight of was the Pacers just played better basketball. They played harder. To me, one of the most telling things wasn't so much what we saw on the court, but some of the things that were said before the game. Tyrese Haliburton is a really good player. He talked a lot before the game about how this was the biggest game of his pro career. He talked about it in the post game. When the best player on the team is coming into a game with that mindset, he's going to figure out a way to be as close to the best version of himself as possible. And to be honest, I just didn't think Tatum and Brown and most of the Celtics played with the kind of sense of urgency you need to win a game like this. This is to me, this is what happens when you go into a playoff series as a number 1 or number 2 seed and you're expected to put a team away in 5 or 6 games and they smack you in the face in game 1. And then you have to recalibrate and figure out how to regain home court advantage. And this is the type of team that they're going to see in the first round of the playoffs. To me, that's the lesson if you're the Boston Celtics you take away from this. We cannot, and by we I mean the Celtics, you cannot go into these games against teams you know they're going to be hyped to play you and just think you can get by with talent alone, particularly when you're on the road. They were way too cool breezy in this game.
I felt that, Jimmy.
I did too. And the Pacers, they're an underrated team right now. They play in Indy. They don't get a lot of star. They're not getting the national televised games. This was
Haliburton's first TNT game ever in his
first
career.
Which is hard to believe because this guy has been good for a while now. But now he's gone from, good to like if you're a casual, like you know the name Haliburton. I think after tonight, this is this is a coming out party type game. Whether it was the 3-pointers, whether it was the floaters, man, he just went to another level in the second half there.
And that 4-point play in the fourth, my goodness.
Oh, backbreaker.
That was unreal. Yeah. Then when that fell, I couldn't believe it. So a lot of energy from the Pacers. Nesmith doing his thing out there, running all over the place. I think he had a dunk as well. Haliburton, Turner's getting involved. The Pacers, I think they played a different type of basketball in the second half. I don't know what Carlisle said to them at halftime, but they were probably a little soft in the first half. And I think Carlisle said, listen, if you guys are going to play soft, this Celtics team will beat you because they can play soft too, and they can out-talent you, right? They can score a bit more than you guys can. If you're not going to make them work, if you're not going to bang down low, if you're not going to be energetic and run up and down the court and make them work harder, they'll run you out the building. And so the Pacers came out harder in the second half. Of course, Haliburton went into dummy mode and he hit some big shots there, but it wasn't just him. It was Healed. My guy McConnell was getting crafty out there at times and confusing guys out there. It was a great all-around team effort from Pacers. They deserved it tonight. The Celtics, I think, thought that maybe they could just win on talent. And it's like mixed. It's like almost like mixed messages. I mean, the way that they won the last game, where they won by what 30, and they were kind of like complaining about the
They
fact
won by 50.
50. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
It was a lot of points.
Yeah, and they had to, and they complained about having to run up the score and this, that, and the other thing. I'm talking about the in-season game, the last in-season game against the
Yeah.
Bulls.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, it's just different. It's different dynamics. It's different mentalities. What did I see the Pacers do at the end of the game? At the end of the game tonight, Sherrod? What did
Buddy Hield.
What did Buddy Hield do? He wasn't worried about messing with the basketball gods and all this stuff. It's a killer. He's going out there. Yeah, I'm going to hit the damn shot. See you guys. You guys just got eliminated. Peace.
And then you saw Jaylen with his jaw dropped.
Yeah, we got Jaylen Brown and
He's like,
Drew Hamilton crying about winning by too much. Meanwhile, the Pacers just freaking shot one in your eye. It just said, "See you later. Get the hell off the court."
And you know what? I'm not mad at Buddy for doing that.
I'm not either. I'm glad that he did. It's a mentality check.
Exactly.
It was funny.
It's like, look, not only have we whipped your ass, but I'm just going to twist
it. Like, you need extra points tonight? I'm confused.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Don't let the door hit you on the way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're going to be laughing about this on the flight to Vegas tonight.
Then they came storming out on the court. It was crazy.
Well, this was a big deal for them. Yeah. This was a major, major moment for them. And again, as someone who has worked with Rick Carlisle and knows how he operates, I guarantee you that whatever success they have going forward, they're going to look back at this game as the turning point. They're going to look back at the way their second half in this game completely changed their season. If they wind up being like a top 3, top 4 seed in the East, this second half that we saw tonight is going to be what they're going to point to as a catalyst, because that is when they finally figured out and started playing with the same or a similar level of focus and intensity and effort defensively what they've been doing offensively.
It's a meaningful game. I mean, we don't think it is, right? Oh, we didn't think it was. I think some of us have probably been.
Well, and the Celtics players, not just us, Jimmy. The Celtics players did not really put a whole lot. I mean, they were basically kind of whatever about this whole tournament thing.
Right.
Pretty much every time they've been asked about it.
I mean, cool for school, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, for them, it's something that is in the way of their ultimate goal, which is to win an NBA title. For them, this tournament, even if they won the tournament, they would say all the politically correct things about it, but their goal, even then, would be to still win an NBA title. Whereas if you're the Indiana Pacers, this is part of the building blocks that you want to have towards being a title contender, because you're not there now. They know this, but this tournament is a step in the right direction for a young. Yeah, and that's half the battle. And again, knowing Rick Carlisle, I think that's a big part of what he really was laying out to them, that, look, this is part of our journey. This is part of our growth to being a great team. We've got to find a way to win this tournament. And they're saying in a way that they don't think that this tournament is that big a deal. We're going to show them it means something. It means something to us. And damn it, we got to go out there and take it. That's the kind of mindset that those guys had and they played with.
And somebody tweeted this to me, and it's not a complete comparison, but it's similar mindset to elimination game in a way. What I mean by elimination game is from the playoffs. I mean, obviously getting eliminated from the tournament and the playoffs are different beasts, but you want to create healthy habits. You want to find yourself in these certain situations that you can mimic later on, whether it's in the playoffs or deep in this season or other big games. And yeah, I'll say this about the in-season tournament. It makes a regular season game in early December more meaningful and more interesting and more fun. And it gives you a little bit more reason to get angry or get fired up if you're not only a player, but if you're a fan. So I will stand corrected a little bit in that. I still don't think the fact that like the prize doesn't really do it for me, but it does make the game, like the benefit to everybody else is that it makes the games more interesting. But for a player, it puts you in a situation that you might find yourself in the playoffs, in a big game moment, right? In a elimination type atmosphere, on the road, hostile environment against an up and coming team. Like you said, Sherrod, this is a classic, like, first round matchup situation as it stands now. I mean, shit, who knows? The Pacers could go on a run here, but that's kind of the vibe I got tonight. And it felt like the Pacers, and again, Halliburton leading the way, they were just able to sort of like use like their own energy and momentum to carry them through those last few minutes of that fourth quarter, where it looked like the Celtics weren't going to go down completely quietly, but they just kept their foot on the gas right there.
There was just a different sense of urgency by Indiana down the stretch, and I know some people want to say maybe this is like Game 7 of a playoff series. This was not a Game 7 playoff series approach by either team. I don't think Indiana played they played their game without any type of pressure. It seemed in the second half, and the Celtics just played too cool. This felt more like Game 1.
Celtics went pretty deep into their bench too.
Yeah, but this felt more like a Game 1 of a playoff series, only because it felt like the Celtics were the team that played as if they knew that home court advantage was theirs going in, and Indiana played like a team that wanted to steal it. And that, to me, is what this ultimately came down to. Indiana wanted this game more than Boston. To me, you can look at all the stats and all the turnovers and analytics you want to, but the bottom line, Indiana wanted to win this thing way more than the Celtics did. And that, to me, is the disturbing and concerning part about this, because this was as close to having a playoff-like atmosphere as you could have in the regular season. And the Celtics, in their first crack at it, treated it as if it were, just a normal regular season game that we got. And that, to me, it defeats the purpose of getting to the knockout round. If you wanted, hell, if that's how you wanted to treat it, just beat Chicago by 15 or 17 and not play your guys major minutes and not be in this whole knockout thing.
Right, you had 4 days off over 5 days going into this one too, and Tatum, got the fourth quarter off on Friday, so rest not an issue.
He took the fourth quarter off for most of this game too.
Preparedness not an issue here. The fourth quarter was bad. The third quarter lost in the game, and I'm sure that's what Joe's gonna say. But pull up threes, tough fadeaways for Tatum too. He made that one over Nesmith. Turnovers, of course, too, the issue throughout this game. Even White got a little loose with the ball in this one, and he had the giveaway before Nesmith's pretty much door slamming dunk there at the end. So,
yeah, we mentioned this right here, this comment. It was actually Hield who took the shot.
Yeah, it was Buddy Hield who had this. Yeah.
But to answer the question, dude, I'm completely fine with it. It's a tournament game. These guys are fired up. I think the
Celtics can't complain about
have that attitude more often. Celtics want to complain when they score too much. What are they going to complain when the other team does it too?
I had no problems with the Celtics running things up early this year. I have no problem with Indiana doing that. Indiana already had the game won, and here's the thing about it. I don't believe Buddy Hield was trying to score at the very end, because remember, he had the ball with about 3 seconds left. And he just raised up, and I for him to shoot it,
he looks so uncertain about doing it.
He seemed a little exactly. I don't think
he was just like F it.
Yeah, Jimmy, thank you.
I bet
when he hit the shot, he looks pretty happy when he hit the shot. I think
when he hit the shot, it was just like it's that kind of night for me. It's that kind of night for me.
It was almost like he was trying to find that sweet spot where if it goes in, it counts. If it doesn't, it won't count.
So I want to go back and watch, because there was chirping throughout this game.
I love
Nesmith fouled.
Yeah, Derrick White was chirping.
Nesmith fouled Tatum on the sideline. You saw O'Shea and Lamar screaming at Nesmith right before Nesmith went off to close that game. Nesmith did the too small, I think, to Jaylen, right?
That's what I'm talking about. He did the too small after he scored on Derrick White, and Derrick White said something back to him.
Derrick White,
started chirping, but yeah.
Joe Mazzulla, my guy.
Joe Mazzulla on the Hield 3. I don't care. I could care less.
See, Joe, boom, we there. Didn't matter.
Joe's got bigger issues right now.
So this is what's going to annoy me about this game.
He would look super petty if he complained about
exactly.
it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think Joe has much ground to stand on. He just did hack a drum in a couple games ago. So, yeah.
What's going to frustrate me?
Right.
What's going to frustrate me about this game is the Celtics are probably just going to shrug it off. And I said the same thing after Orlando. This should be important to Boston, not because they need the $500K or that the trophy's going to mean a ton. Every step along the way, on the way to the finals, on the way to the championship matters. And we're starting to see the Celtics stumble off their hot start here. Once again, a bad three-point shooting night. Can't overcome it offensively. Missing free throws again. Turned the ball over 18 times. They're loose, they're disconnected, and they're inconsistent right now offensively in a way that has them looking below average on that end. Now, Friday against Philadelphia, they figured it out late. but that was another bad game for them of late. We can just run it back. All those recent games, aside from the Chicago one, which was a dead team walking on the other side, have pretty much been lackluster offensive efforts for the Celtics. 113 against the Hawks. That was a fine win. Bad night against the Magic. That Bucks win was fine. Bad night against the Hornets. Bad night against the Grizzlies. Bad night against the Raptors. So they've been stacking these up of late, and their offense just keeps sinking lower and lower. The defense has been fine. I didn't love it in this game, but we're looking at offensive issues for this team right now. And obviously Porzingis is out, and that's a big factor. But Brown and Tatum at the point of attack just aren't playing well right now as the playmakers for this team. I don't care how many points they score. They're not going to get it done just focusing on scoring. And the other players miss out when they're just have their head down looking to score like this.
But you know what? Here's the one guy that I think we're completely, ignoring, who I got this weird feeling he's got some health things going on, is Derrick White. He did not look like himself in the second half.
He tweaked his ankle
especially in
tonight.
the second half. Yeah.
And I mean, think about this. Derrick White had 5 turnovers. Derrick White, of all the guys that can stack up the turnovers, he's the least likely to do that. Something physically has to be wrong for him to have a game like that. And to me, I don't think that point should be overlooked or diminished, the fact that he was not himself. Because I do believe if Derrick White didn't have that ankle, I don't know if the Celtics would have won this game, but they damn sure wouldn't have went out the way they did, where they just got ran out the gym at basically the last 2.5, 3 minutes of the game. Derrick White he's the glue guy for this team. He's the one guy that they can't ill afford to not be close to his peak play, because those other guys, Tatum, I mean, think about it. Tatum had 32 points and they lost. Him and Jaylen Brown combined for damn near 60 points and they lost. But to me, the guy that really, whose play, I wouldn't say hurt them the most, but certainly they needed him to be closer to his usual self than he was today, is Derrick White. 5 turnovers. That's just not Derrick White basketball. And I know it, and I know it had to do with the ankle, because we've seen enough of Derrick White to know that he's not going to turn the ball over and make 5 mental errors out there if there's not some physical dynamic involved. That's just not what he's been about. So he absolutely gets a pass. But I hope that he's better. That's, to me, that's the silver lining in all this. You've got a lot of days before you have to step out on the court, and not only for Porzingis to get healthy, but also for guys like Derrick White get some time down.
Yeah, I agree, Sherrod. It's like we spoke about on the Big Three podcast, right? I mean, that was my X factor going into this game, because when you're shorthanded without Kristaps Porzingis, and the Indiana Pacers are clicking on offense the way the way they have been entering this one, you needed him to sort of level things, when the Celtics needed it, especially when Tatum and Brown couldn't find their offense, it seemed like. But in that second half, especially in that second half, I just feel like Derrick just didn't have it. And the Pacers, they knew that. I feel like they knew. I mean, he was the one guy that was not only attacking the rim a lot in that first half, but he was also that guy who was cutting, getting those easy looks down low. And I feel like once that was taken away, and you can credit the Pacers as well, because they did adjust the paint, because those 2 back-to-back alley-oops to Luke Cornett, that didn't sit well with anybody in Indy. So I felt like they were like, okay, we got to fix that. And I think they did that in a big way in the second half. And then, when Tatum got going, it was just sort of like, and he was doing a good job getting to the free throw line. But when the Pacers got out on that fast break over and over again, between Halliburton, between them getting stops, the Celtics turnovers, man, the Celtics had 14 turnovers going into the fourth quarter, and 40 seconds into the fourth, they turned the ball over. Right then and there, not only did I think the Celtics had a chance to lose this, but the Indiana Pacers was like, oh man, we can't.
Jaylen had that one out of timeout where he tossed the ball back.
On this golden opportunity, man. They didn't. They cashed in the fourth.
And Pacers didn't really turn it over at all tonight. I think they had 6.
They finished with 6.
Yeah, there you go. So the turnover differential was huge tonight for them. I mean, you have to be more careful with the ball.
Their balance of being able to play that fast and that aggressive and not turn the ball over is impressive.
Definitely.
And they've been doing it all year.
Yeah.
They caught the Celtics off guard tonight. Yeah, and that's what frustrates you out of this one. This Celtics offense is supposed to be right up there with theirs. Teams have been scoring 140, 150 against this team like it's nothing, and you put up 112. We'll move on.
They shot horribly tonight, Bobby. I mean, 29% from 3.
And when you turn the ball over 18 times, it's going to happen too. So I want to give a quick shout out to FanDuel before we continue. Love them right now. I hate to say it, Jimmy. Pacers money line would have been a good one tonight.
Would have been a great one.
Given how hot they came into this game. I was so nervous about this one for personal reasons, obviously, but also just in general.
Bobby's not going to Vegas.
Damn,
I know you're tight.
Damn.
So if you bet the Pacers tonight, you're very happy. And if you use this code here, fanduel.com/Boston, you got $150 in bonus bets on top of that big win. So that's the direction I probably would have gone on in going into this one, at least from an odds standpoint. But plenty of in-season tournament games to come. 2 more tomorrow. The Celtics are going to face the loser of the Knicks-Bucks game on Friday. So they have 3 days off coming up here. And then they're going to see another tough marquee in-season tournament team coming up on Friday with nothing but a regular season game to play for. So
boring.
They'll get healthy at least. We'll get to Porzingis. We'll get to some of the health updates coming up here. But check out FanDuel. Great place, great app. I love their app. Super easy to use. You can find everything easily on the front page scrolling through there. And like I said, $5 money line bet gets you $150 in bonus bets when you head over there, fanduel.com/Boston.
If you took my advice and just bet whoever the Patriots play, like you would have gotten that bonus bets too.
John likes the under on the Pats. I just bet that after seeing 36 come up for next week. So
there you go.
Follow me if you may.
For this specific promo though, you got to go with a money line bet.
Right. So Steelers money line.
Wow, what makes you like the under? The fact that the Patriots literally don't know how to score? Is that your hot take? Bet the under. What's the over-under? A half.
21 plus President Mass bonus bets expires 7 days after receipt. Go check it out. FanDuel.com. Not a good week for Pats, Celtics so far. Maybe the Red Sox can make a splash or something, Jimmy. I don't know, but
I don't think Shohei's coming.
Let's get to Nesmith. I want to talk a little bit more about him because we got to do it for
Crash.
He was quiet early.
Yeah,
I think he was 1 of 3 through 19 minutes. Then he gets that charge take on White, which was a huge play. I want to see what the score was when he did that. It was definitely one possession game. Great positioning underneath. There was no doubt about it. And then Pacers went on a little bit of a run after that. Mathurin hit a 3. Hield hit that 3 after Cornette's block that bounced out to him, and the Pacers went up 9 late in the third there and end the quarter up 8 heading into the fourth. So that was a big mountain for the Celtics to have to climb after a 15-3 Pacers run. But it all started with an offensive foul by White driving into Nesmith. Nesmith blocked Tatum later. And then to close this game, he had a really nice look at a 3 that would have put it away even earlier, but he missed it. Comes back with that dunk over White. Bunch of different layups in the lane, some real craftiness driving to the rim against some aggressive closeouts by the Celtics. And then that exclamation point dunk there. Tough defense. He's their best defender. He's drawn the most daunting assignments on the other side. And you can see the chip on his shoulder. We heard it when we interviewed him here in Boston before that game that they played here. He just was very short, very frank, not sentimental at all. And then you could see in the game, like turn to the crowd, yelling at them, the chirping with the bench in this one, chirping on the floor, and then that big exclamation point dunk. He's trying to show that this is always what he was capable of, and the Celtics just didn't give him an opportunity there. He said it over and over again. All I needed was a chance. Consistent minutes, consistent run. He's getting it here in Indiana and showing what he's capable of.
Bobby, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it. He got an opportunity. He just didn't make the most of it.
He got small opportunities.
Well, that's a small opportunity. Last I checked,
what a rookie
under the silo of opportunity.
Yeah, man.
But
it's tough when you play his role to come in for 10 minutes and take 2 shots.
But you know what you do, Bobby? When you come in for 10 minutes, you actually make plays to get 12 minutes the next time.
He did that, though, didn't he?
15.
Yeah,
and then
but Bobby,
it was 18. Then 18 becomes 20.
Yeah, Bobby, you're making it sound like this is like a Chauncey Billups situation. He was traded his rookie season. I mean, this guy, he had a couple summers in Boston, no?
No, he did.
I kind of lean with Bobby. I feel like they didn't give him enough consistent opportunities.
We talked about this all the time.
DNP. Then he would come in, play like 15 minutes off the bench, and he would try to do too much because he was trying to earn his time all in one game. So I'm not saying he had the right maybe approach, but I don't think the Celtics, and it's not just Nesmith. I mean, they've had issues developing a lot of the guys that they've drafted over the last decade, and he's just another one of them. And the other thing was he was just on a team that there wasn't an opportunity. Obviously when you go to the Pacers, that opportunity is there. When you jump into the Celtics, they had a team with championship aspirations, and he couldn't crack that rotation. So that's just the way it went.
But that's the bigger issue. The fact is, the guys that were ahead of him were better, and in Indiana, the guys that are ahead of him, there really aren't that many guys ahead of him.
Right.
So
His rookie year, I don't know.
No. What do you mean?
That was
He's
a bad
a rookie.
Celtics team.
You're going to make him a starter? What do you? I don't get that.
I was a huge Nesmith fan. I mean, Nesmith played at Vanderbilt for one of my all-time favorite players I've covered, Jerry Stackhouse. Jerry is a little bit of an edge guy. Plays with a little bit of edge to him. And so Nesmith, I'm all in for Nesmith. But the problem I had with him is when he got a few minutes, he did not maximize those minutes.
Here are the guys who played ahead of him his rookie year.
Okay.
Romeo Langford, Semi Ojeleye, Grant Williams, Jeff Teague, Peyton Pritchard, Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice, Evan Fournier.
So some of those guys, like,
so you're talking about veterans. You're talking about guys who, at his position, were more seasoned and more impactful.
I get it, and I was saying they should at the time, but I was wrong.
I don't know if Romeo fits in that category either.
So that you've got one out of 6 guys you just named that he probably should have played.
Romeo, Shemi, he could have played over them.
Plus, this is a contending.
Yes,
This is a contending. At that time, Jimmy. You forget though. At that time, though, Jim.
That's how you develop guys.
Jimmy was like if you're playing the Bucks, he's gonna give you some minutes against Giannis. Like he was just that was sort of his role. He didn't really have a role, but if he had one,
romanticize Shemi here.
I mean, hey, at least
he was the Giannis stopper, Jimmy.
Yeah,
at least he carved out. At least he carved out a role, or at least not a role. At least he carved out an assignment. When did
well, here's the thing. Josue, here's the thing. Shemi was an 8 to 10 minute guy too.
Do Shemi
until he carved out a role for himself to get more minutes.
Hey, Shemi was a good dude.
The story of that year was very clear. I sat here, several of us sat here and said they got to go for it. They got to win. They got to try and make the most of the season. And the season had no hope in retrospect because it wasn't a good team. In retrospect, and I'm sure they would admit it too, they probably should have focused on development. They probably should have focused on getting these guys minutes that year. And to John's credit, he was saying it the whole way because it was Semi, Romeo, and whoever ahead of him, and Fournier, who I was completely wrong about too. Jeff Teague, yeah. I mean, Brad was obsessed with veterans on that team.
True.
He was.
So that's where it went sideways for Nesmith a little bit there early on. And then year 2, Ime comes in, and I thought Ime gave him some chances, and that team had a lot more at stake once they got rolling there. So that's where you disappear if you're him. It's half and half, right? They didn't give him enough opportunity. He didn't make a ton of those opportunities, and now he's gotten better in Indiana. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he wasn't capable of doing these dribble drives here in Boston.
Hey, good for him. Tonight. I think most of us agreed, like, hey, this was bound to happen in most places, right? Maybe he didn't get he needed this. This wasn't the fit for him in Boston, but that happens with a lot of players. But I don't think it's enough for us to say, like, he's going to turn into, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's like a talent gap or level, right? If he's to become a fringe all-star or so, then you can say, okay, well, the Celtics really dropped the ball there. But I don't think that's what we're dealing with here, But hey, I'm happy for him. I don't think this is I don't know if it would have panned out the same here in Boston, especially with the guys above him and the way they were divvying up minutes last season, or the last 2 seasons rather.
Yeah, this is a little different than moving up in the draft to draft Kelly Olynyk and seeing Giannis Antetokounmpo go 2 spots later. It's a little different.
Right.
It's a little different.
When there's something like that, then we can have a conversation.
Now exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about Boston's bench, because Nesmith comes off, has a big night off Indiana's bench in this one. It was Boston's bench that
Hauser.
Yeah, he was good. They didn't get much else off the bench here tonight.
That's been the story most of the season.
I've liked how they've played coming into this one, but Banton gets the first look early. Same deal.
Interesting.
Not much of a shot maker. You pointed that out last show, Sherrod, that he's starting to get in the mix there with Pritchard. Pritchard plays most of the second half, goes 0 for 5. Cornette, everyone's going crazy in the chat. He had that really nice run in the first half. This is a tough matchup for him. He has to switch everything just because of how the Pacers play offensively. And I thought he did a decent job given how tough of a matchup this is for him. You couldn't have played Keita in this one, so there's really not much to complain about with Porzingis out. But your bench wasn't good enough tonight, and you just got blown off the floor in the third quarter. And a big reason is they went back to that Brown lineup late in the third, And then they go 1 for 7 with 3 turnovers over a stretch where the Pacers shoot ahead and take a big lead into the fourth. So this is a real problem here. And I'm in the John chair, so I guess I have to do it. Brown can't lead these bench units, and it's a huge problem. He's just not capable of it right now. He had a really bad season last year doing it. They got away from it a little bit this year. And then with White and Holiday struggles in this game, it really got pronounced, that stretch in the second half where he's out there with the second unit. I don't even know what to say about Jaylen right now anymore. Like, when he's out there with the full complement of players, he's going to get his by just kind of, finding his cuts and hitting threes if he's capable of doing that, or, rolling sometimes, which isn't a big part of his game. But otherwise, he just doesn't have a lot of opportunities in this offense unless he's just taking the ball and running and shooting, which he did in that second half early. And he got blocked twice, missed another shot inside, took another really bad leaning shot from the elbow right out of halftime. So again, 30 points looks great, but I didn't think he played well in this one. He had 0 assists and 3 turnovers.
No, he wasn't. I mean, the thing about this game, Jaylen did not play great. I admit that. I acknowledge that, but he wasn't the reason why they lost. He was part of the reason, but he was not the sole reason. And sometimes I think we lean on him a little bit too heavily with that regard. They have to figure out how to make him an impact player without him having to necessarily score to do so. I like when he's on the floor with a Sam Hauser who gives him a legitimate option to pass to, who can actually knock down shots. I'd like to see those two play more together. And remember, Bobby, we talked about this a few weeks ago. The one guy who seemed to be bringing out the good Jaylen more often than not was Porzingis.
Yes.
That's the one guy that I think if the more those two play together, I think we'll see more and more of the good Jaylen. And as long as Porzingis is out, Jaylen, I think, without even realizing it, reverts back to some of the bad habits that
But let's say it again, and this is another thing I said when they traded for Porzingis. We can't sit here in May and say, oh, Porzingis was out. They lost, but they would have won if he played. Because that's what you get with Porzingis. He's hurt all the time. So they have to be able to figure out how to function offensively without him out there. And
they've missed. How many games has he missed now? What is it? 3?
Yeah, man. Don't be pushing that narrative, as Jason Tatum would say. Not this year, at least, but it's so far it hasn't been as bad as.
No, he's been relatively healthy to start the year, but it wasn't surprising that he got hurt.
No, but the thing is, the Celtics, the more games that he isn't healthy enough to play, the more crystal clear it becomes how important he is for them to win. They can win some games without him, without question. They've proven that. But over the course of an extended period of time, like we're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 games, they're going to drop a couple of those games in large part because they won't have him on the floor. Not just because of what he does from a production standpoint, but the domino effect that his presence has for those around him. Jaylen Brown specifically is a better player when Kristaps Porzingis is in the lineup. It has with the eye test, the stats test. Jaylen is just better. And
why is that?
I think there's a couple reasons. When him and Porzingis are in a pick and roll, it's kind of scary because Jaylen becomes exactly what you want the ball handler to do in the pick and roll. You want him to be a dual threat, the ability to shoot the floater, the ability to throw it up for the lob dump. Jaylen seems, for whatever reason, to be really comfortable running that with Porzingis, and he's a problem because he has the ability to knock the mid-range down. He can clearly throw the lob to Porzingis, and Porzingis can finish at the rim. So not having that type of player around, it makes Jaylen less than his best. And Jaylen, it just feels as though he's falling back into some of those bad habits of just, like there were at least, I want to say at least 3 or 4 possessions where Jaylen took shots and there was nobody under the rim except Pacers players.
Yeah, he shoots sometimes, Jimmy, like he hasn't shot in a while and he needs to take his turn. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say that, and it looks true.
Well, yeah, he usually goes right into his offense a lot of the times, even if he's being double teamed. If he feels like things aren't going his way, he feels like he's like a couple layups away from turning it around. That's always been Jaylen's approach. And even in this one, I thought it was interesting how in the last couple of seconds before halftime, it was like the only time in his career I've seen Jaylen pass off the half court heave or whatever, but it was too little, too late, and it was an awful pass. But at least his head was in the right place. He was looking for he made the right look. He just didn't have enough time, and he put a little too much mustard on that pass.
I thought Jaylen did some nice things tonight. I liked his aggressiveness early on in the game. I thought he was out in transition. The Thunder.
You always do, Jimmy, but it's the balance between playing within the flow of the offense and the aggressiveness. And when you have 0 assists, you didn't strike that balance clearly.
No, and that's been a problem. I mean, the 0 assists is not just tonight. It's been an issue previous games as well. And I think, you already touched upon it. When he's with that second unit, does try to take it upon himself to lead the charge, if you will, but again, falls into the habit of, I think, trying to do too much, forcing some of those shots, some threes tonight that I didn't like from him. I mean, he was 2 of 7 from 3. So again, not a good shooting night. You look at the points and you say, okay, 30 points, 14 of 23, not horrible, but is he giving the game what it needs at certain points? -10 tonight. And there wasn't, when they weren't out in transition today, they didn't look good. Like the half court was out of sorts, I thought. It felt like nobody knew where they were going, who was getting. Yeah, it was clunky. That's probably the best word for it. And that's kind of like Jaylen Brown. I feel like sometimes he's really clunky when he's not just out in transition, using his athleticism.
Yeah, and these numbers are staggering here. I don't know if these include tonight, but clean the glass, they got good on-off numbers. And when Jaylen's on the floor, the Celtics are 11 points worse per 100 possessions, which is in the 14th percentile of any player in the league. Last year, they were 6 points worse with him on the floor, which was 21st. So those minutes where he's out there and Tatum's off have gotten even worse. They score 7 fewer points per 100. They give up 4 more points per 100 when he's out there.
How much of that is a knock on Jaylen, and how much of that is just Jason Tatum is just playing unbelievable basketball in more cases, more so than
the knock is that he, and I'm going to throw the money out there because that's just how it goes. He's a $300 million player.
Yep.
Who, if the other star is out, can't carry the team.
Right.
And that's the killer right now. And this is what we debated when they signed the deal. Can you pay a guy who isn't going to be able to carry this team if the other star is out $300 million? It's tough. And for him to go in the opposite or worse direction, get worse with those numbers this year, it's tough. And I don't know how to fix it. It's the biggest problem on this team right now is where he fits in, where he can help maximize their chances to win. And we thought it might be defense, 6 fouls in this game. He gives up that shot to Halliburton.
4-point play.
I don't know. I've defended him over and over again, and I feel like he's been a little better than people have made it out to be to start this year. But at night like this is tough. I mean, he needed to be better in this one.
Agreed.
There it is. Agreed. Facts my dog from Sherrod.
So,
I know what you're saying with that, Jimmy.
This is what I have to do in the John chair.
He was listening. Get out of here.
I want to shout out another great sponsor. Josue saw it. Some people on Twitter might have saw it. I was cooking up a storm on HelloFresh this week.
Same, bro.
Josue was. What did you make? You made pasta, right?
Yeah, it was the.
Oh, you can make pasta.
I know it sounded so basic.
No, I was gonna let you explain it.
Water.
Josue's famous spaghetti, everybody.
Do your read, Bobby. I'll tell you in a second. I don't want to butcher this. Let me get this right.
Yeah, do your read. We'll get back to you on the
it doesn't say HelloFresh is spaghetti. It says
no, it's what I saw. I don't know what else was in it, but HelloFresh. It's America's #1 meal kit for a reason. Why? You get laid out instructions. You can customize what you get in your boxes each week, how often it comes, when it comes. It's completely customizable, and they have seasonal recipes. Right now we're getting into winter, so I'm sure there's going to be some more home style comfort food right now. I had a nice burger this week with a tomato onion glaze. I also did a...
How do you cook your burger, Bob?
I do a medium.
Okay.
I keep it right average, yeah. So
all right with you, Jimmy. Look at you. You pass the test.
Good question to ask. It's a good question. It's a great question.
That's a Jimmy question.
Great buns too, by the way. All the accessories in it are great. They give you everything you need. It's pre-packaged, pre-portioned. And right now they're giving you free breakfast for life. I told you, Jimmy, my box was filled with muffins, egg bites, like just piled up. I could have eaten for 2-3 weeks with this thing. It was unreal. And I love their product. It tastes great. It's fresh. It's on ice right when it gets to you. You can cook it right away. You can freeze it, save it for later, do whatever you want there. But they're going to bring it to you consistently too. So you might as well just eat right through it there and take advantage of the free breakfast for life right now at HelloFresh.com/CLNS free. That's HelloFresh.com/CLNS free. A free breakfast item in every box you're going to get as long as you use HelloFresh. So check it out. Yep. One of my favorite sponsors we've had here.
And Josue is going to autograph everybody's spaghetti dish.
Yeah, we had the best spaghetti.
Send him a picture.
FYI.
Send him a picture of you with your spaghetti.
So what was the dish?
Spaghetti pasta lovers out there, if you let them know like that's your thing, they're gonna load you up with spaghetti. And obviously there's that balance as well. And if you ask me, man, the tomato herb spaghetti with a kick plus spinach.
It was spaghetti.
Garlic, chinko. Man, let me tell you something, man. I'm a fan of the chili flakes, the red chili flakes. They said put it as much as you want, man. I put the whole bag in there. Had that nice kick with it. Cheese, so you got that cheesy. It's not like too tomato based, but you also have that creamy side to it with the spinach. Oh man, and the breadcrumbs, it topped it off perfectly, man. I'm telling you. And I made this meal in probably 35 to 40 minutes. I was taking my time with it, but you guys could probably do it quicker, man. I'm telling you.
35 minutes for spaghetti. Damn, Chef Boyard Josue over there.
Yo, I'm taking my time. Or I was watching
some soft spaghetti after 35 minutes.
I was watching League Pass, damn it. It was
boiling that shit for a while.
Does anyone
everybody don't don't mess it up, all right? Al dente, because when you're warming up, you don't want it to be all soggy, right? So you cook it al dente.
Oh, you gotta cook it al dente. Yeah, that's like usually 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's HelloFresh. They're the best.
Yes, they are. I'll tell you about another one next episode.
Yeah, well, hopefully we got some more coming because Sherrod hasn't had enough meatloaf, I don't think yet.
You can never have enough meatloaf in your life.
No, you can't.
I want to see some more quotes coming in from Indiana. I'm interested to see how the players reacted to this one.
What's up with Holiday, Bobby?
Yeah, he looks slow to me. So
in the first half, but after that, kind of dropped off.
Yeah, on that notes, Timberwolves took the top record in the league tonight. So Holiday came up limping. That's another reason I want to see some of the quotes coming out of this one. Right at the end, I smashed knees with someone. I think it might have been Nesmith. So he looks shaken up there, but he looks slow to me throughout this one, a little bit uninvolved. That hook missed early, rolled right out, and he fell coming into this game to 45% from 2, which is his lowest mark since 2014 from 2-point range. I'll pull up his numbers at the rim too, because I'm sure that's a big part of it, but he's shooting 42% from the field coming in this one. Just 12 points a game, which is down from 19 last year. His rebounds are up, but his assists are down as well. Shooting fine from 3, though, at 38%. Again, didn't shoot well tonight at the 3-point line, but that had been a strength for him coming into this one. So I'd probably just chalk it up to him coming back from the ankle still here and still figuring out what his place is in this offense, because they started so hot. They hit so many shots early on in the schedule, and I said it again. How's it going to look when the shooting comes back down to earth? And as you said, Jimmy, it looked clunky tonight. The spacing's not right. And it's a lot of guys just trying to jam the ball in isolation, back and down to the rim. And Tatum did a great job within the first half. Porzingis is awesome with it against the mismatches. But it's not an efficient shot for Holiday right now, as much as he tries to pound away at, opponents and throw up a hook shot, or, that fadeaway 3 he shot early was really bad at the shot clock, just trying to throw the ball up there. So he's not finding his spot in the offense right now. And I think a lot of that stems from the guys who have the ball in their hands the most, Tatum and Brown. They have to, get him involved in plays and get him touches.
Facts, my dog. No,
that was a tough, that play late too. I think it was right before the and 1-3, right?
I was cruising Twitter. I was looking at quotes, and Derrick White had just spoken, and he took a good chunk of the blame for the second half issues that the Celtics had. And I think it was Sherrod that you mentioned it.
Yeah, Derrick just wasn't himself. I mean, the 5 turnovers, the defense or lack of defense, I should say, on Halliburton. And again, no knock on Halliburton. He's a hell of a player. But Derrick didn't provide the kind of resistance that you're used to seeing him put on guys. And with him not being himself, Jrue Holiday not being just a shell of himself, that combined against a good player like Halliburton, you get nights like this where Halliburton gets the triple-double. So
is this something to worry about with not to go back and forth, but we were talking about Jrue and Derrick White. I'm going to call that a one-off game. We know what he's capable of. We know what he gives them on a night in, night out basis, and when he does it, you can see it tonight. But Halliburton, he was shaking Jrue Holiday at when that nice 3-pointer that he had Holiday coming out of his sneakers there for a second. So, is that something to be more concerned about? Is he playing through a little bit more pain than maybe we know? Is this just Jrue Holiday? Is he more of this type of a defense? We all know about his defense, but is he less on offense than maybe some of us thought he might be?
I'm hoping that the next few days off will be a chance for him to get his body closer to being right. Because I still think that, Jimmy, you kind of touched on earlier, I do think that there's still some lingering issues / effects from just, the ankle. And hopefully the next 4 days will help with that. But that's no reason for him to be as poor defensively as I thought he was tonight. It's no reason. And Derrick White, as you pointed out, Jimmy, I'm with you on that one. I think Derrick has earned the right to have a game like this, particularly on a night when we saw some type of physical setback that he suffered that happened before he started to kind of play poorly. And even he acknowledged that he wasn't very good in the second half. And I do think that he's going to probably be battling through something and have 4 days before he has to step on the court, which would be great for him. But Jrue Holiday makes me a little bit nervous because remember before they signed him, people were pointing, and rightfully so, of how poorly he played in the playoffs last year and how many were questioning whether he had much, if anything, left in the tank. And he comes to Boston and he does some good things early, but he does just enough bad things to make you think that, is this a one-off or is this like the beginning of the end? And I don't have a feel for that. I don't. I think Jrue is going to have a number of games like that between now and the playoffs. If you're the Celtics, you're just hoping and praying that he gets all that out of his system in the regular season, and he can be that on-the-ball elite defender, shot maker when he's open type of player that has been kind of the hallmark of his career for the most part.
So I want to go back and watch it.
I was going to say, I think a lot of us kind of had that in the back of our mind going into the season. But what made this situation so much different compared to last year was, one, you didn't have to be one of the top 2 players on this team. Compared to Milwaukee, like where Chris Middleton has fallen, like that's what they needed him to be. So that's not the case here. So I thought that was a benefit in that regard, right? That you have Tatum and Brown and Porzingis in the mix as well. And then also the guy we're talking about as well, Derrick White. I mean, having those 2 guys play off each other obviously takes a whole lot of that pressure off of Jrue Holiday to be that, to be that lockdown defender in the backcourt when he has that type of help. But when both of these guys are banged up, man, there's a lot that the Celtics are giving up in that end of the floor.
Well, and that's real quick. That's another reason why I think we're seeing Brown maybe struggle a little bit. You want Brown to focus on what he does best, finishing, scoring and finishing. You rely on guys like Holiday and White and, when Porzingis is back to do those other things. And specifically the guards, right? Holiday and White, who came on to start the year. They were the best, in my opinion, the best guard tandem in the NBA, the way they started this year. Now they're dealing with a couple of things, and I think we're starting to see that trickle down because now you're seeing Brown have to try to do a little bit too much. I think Tatum, we probably haven't given him enough criticism a little bit as much tonight either. I thought he tried to do a little too much. He had a couple sloppy turnovers, and his shot wasn't on tonight. So this was a game. This game kind of reminded me of past seasons where it was just like, you were relying on those 2 guys to do too much, and they tried to, and it didn't work out in the end. They didn't roll over and die. I mean, it was a competitive game. It was a fun game. They made their runs in that fourth quarter there, but ultimately, you didn't get enough from anybody else on that team to make up for the lack of production that Brown and Tatum were giving you down the stretch.
The play that kills me late, this was actually right after the Haliburton 4-point play. So they're down 4, there's a minute left. There's 5 on the shot clock. Holiday just almost gotten his hands on that Haliburton kick out.
Oh, yeah.
He should have stolen it, and he dropped it out of bounds, or he didn't quite get to it. I don't know what happened there, but Pacers get another chance. They run a down screen that gets Hield coming up high, and both Tatum and Jrue get stuck on Nesmith. And Hield's wide open for 3. And that was pretty much the game right there, giving up that 3 to him. They turn the ball over right after, and then Nesmith dunks it to make it 9. So that's just that crunch time execution we keep talking about. They had been good with it early in the year, but in a moment like that where you have a couple shots left to tie the game, you give up 5 points like nothing in just a few seconds there off some silly mistakes. So it's a kill. I mean, you just got to out execute in this game. You looked less athletic and fast than this team, and you looked less skilled in terms of the playmaking that Haliburton's able to do the other way, and the lack of it you had on your offensive end. So I don't know. This one just kills me for a bunch of different reasons, because of the fact that the Celtics just kind of bow right out of this tournament that they should have been right in the thick of from the start, and lose a couple bad games here to fall out of it. They pretty much got a free pass to get into it too, playing that Bulls team. And it just continues this stretch of shaky offensive play that's been going on for a little while now with them. So I don't know. I just don't feel great about where they're at right now. They don't, go back to what you just said, Jimmy, they don't look very different, at least without Porzingis here.
Right.
I think they
recent
do,
teams.
I think that's the biggest thing here. I mean, life without Porzingis. I mean, we knew, I guess now, based on these reports, it's not going to be, long term in the sense of it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. However, we see the difference. Like this team offensively,
completely
they're
different.
not the same without Kristaps Porzingis, and I think that they were trying to figure that out. But also, you have to remember, other teams, they're going through their game plan on how to stop the Celtics. The team with the best record in the NBA, you're going to get everyone's best, right? And especially a team like the Indiana Pacers, where you literally embarrassed the heck out of them, not too long ago. And guess who was playing in that one? Kristaps Porzingis. So I think there was a lot of motivated guys on the other side, right? And especially if you think about a team that is, they're at home, they're hosting the Celtics. A lot of these guys don't have a whole lot of deep playoff experience. And now this isn't necessarily the playoffs, right? But also it kind of has that feel to it. This is like practice for a team like.
But why aren't the Celtics motivated too? I don't like hearing that.
Because they're thinking about June, and a lot of these guys have been there, especially the core. Sure, Jrue Holiday is the only one with the championship ring, but a lot of these guys know how long this season is. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. But also the way someone like Tatum is playing compared to Brown or other guys. I mean, Tatum, in my opinion, has been very, very consistent, or at least just trying to be a better all-around player. And I'm not quite sure if everyone is sort of on the same level or at least making the same stride right now. But it's tough. I think it's difficult for this offense without Kristaps Porzingis, especially when the shots aren't falling, you're turning the ball over, and these are things that the Indiana Pacers capitalize on.
Yeah, but the Celtics, this whole in-season tournament for them was just kind of like this little off exit ramp to get onto. And once they get off there, they're going to get back on the road towards winning a championship. But they don't need to get off there. They don't need to enjoy whatever is on this little in-season tournament. Because their goal, this is they didn't really care about this tournament, and they played like it. And Bobby, to your point, it bothers me because you really need to look at every game as if it matters. You need to look at every chance to get better and prove that you're the best team.
Too often too casual.
Yes, they're very casual in this game, and it may very well bite them in the ass. But if you're a Celtics fan, you're hoping that they'll look at this game, they'll see how casual they were, and the next time they play Indiana, they will be closer to the team we saw the first game than they were the second one. Because Indiana always had the built-in excuse. We didn't have Halliburton that first game.
Mm-hmm.
We played you with him. What happened?
Yeah.
They beat you. They beat the Celtics. So the Celtics, in Indiana's mind, they have a certain kind of confidence now that they didn't have before when they see Boston. And I mentioned this, on the on the Big Three NBA podcast. I talked about Rick Carlisle and just how Joe Mazzulla is still kind of going through that learning how to out-coach coaches. There's a definite mind game going on, on the sidelines. And Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the game. And so Joe, I think, is going to look back at this and look at some things he could do a little differently, because when you start dispersing the blame pie, Tatum absolutely deserves a good chunk of it. Jaylen, without question. Derrick White, Jrue Holiday. You go down. The only person I had
I'm sick of the chat. The chat's looking at Luke. The chat's looking at Luke and Joe and just all these.
None of your core guys play well.
Guys.
None of your core
Look
guys
at the two
well.
stars.
Yeah, they both were not good. They put up, to me, they played the McTatum and the McBrown game. Fast food, great, tastes good, empty calories. Empty calories.
I like that.
We got the McTatum and we got the McBrown game. Empty calories. Tastes great. Love the numbers.
Yeah.
Substance, no. It's not making you better. You're not getting healthy off of that. The HelloFresh game that they were playing. This is fast food. There's nothing nutritious about what we got here. We just got a bunch of nice empty calories.
Last thing I got on this game.
Yeah, Sherrod was a rapper in another life. Okay. Sherrod got bars.
Last thing I got on this game, and I'll go there just because the people want it. Do you have enough at that 5 position right now? Because they want to play bigger. You see they're hesitant to go small in this game, especially against the Turner, who is slicing them up on switches. But you have Luke out there for 17 minutes switching out to the perimeter, which isn't ideal for him. You can't play Kate in this game because of that style. And Horford was fine. I thought he gave them a little bit of energy late. He was actually out of the game for a long time. I think you mentioned it, Sherrod, that this wasn't played like a playoff game. If this is the playoffs, Al's probably closer to 40 minutes than 31. But he has 31. Yeah. He has that long layoff. And he takes 3 shots, 4 assists, 2 turnovers, 7 rebounds. It's a fine game. He had a couple of nice offensive rebounds late, but he only scores 2 points. So you're missing the offense from Porzingis there. And then with Luke out there, you're missing the defense of Al. And Kata can't play in this game. So it's one of those games. I feel like they've held up well without Porzingis, but this one shows your vulnerability at center in certain matchups.
Well, one thing I would have probably tried just to a wrinkle in there was to play, I don't know, the guy who used to play for them like last year, O'Shea Brissett. It might have been a good wrinkle to throw out there.
You can play a little 5.
Yes. And play a little 5 against the team that he spent, I would love to have seen him match up a little bit with Miles Turner. A guy that he's familiar with. I'm not saying he would shut Miles down or nothing, but his ability to switch out when Miles would want to just, set the high pick and roll, where Miles would step out for the 3 and hurt the Celtics, either with his passing or his shot making. I think Brissett would have helped you in that regard.
And tonight might have been the night.
Yeah.
But Lamar Stevens just isn't going to play, is he?
Look, I'm to the point now where, I just want Lamar to just – I think we need to have a seat for him in press row for game at the Garden, because he's going to be doing the same thing we're doing.
This guy started 25 games last year and can't get a second.
He can't get 25 seconds in Boston. I don't get it. For a team that can use and the thing about it, we talk about the Celtics, they're not that particularly deep at the wing position defensively. And Lamar Stevens, that's literally the one thing that he's shown the ability to do in the NBA is to defend the wing position. I keep telling myself that Joe Mazzulla has this master plan where he's going to whip out Lamar when we least expect it, and he's going to look brilliant.
Because if they had sharpshooters in front of him, Sherrod, it would make sense. But you got O'Shea shooting 11% from 3. Ban can't shoot at all, as we've talked about. And Pritchard has struggled in spots. So he's coming off a career year from 3, Stevens is. He's not great, but he can hit them. He's worked on it a lot. He's not a 0 from outside. So
he's a 0 when it comes to playing time.
Yeah, he is. And again, tonight might have been the night. just because he hasn't been out there at all. But at some point, I think you have to try him. They've tried everybody else here, and it really hasn't worked with any of those other guys for any stretch of time here. They really want to get this Banton thing going, but it's not right now. So
they're pushing that so hard.
No, Missoula is a fan. Like I think he sees himself in him or something. I don't know what it is. He rants and raves about practice this and practice that. I'm like, he must just be shutting people down in practice for him to.
Meanwhile, Steven's having the worst practices ever.
Exactly, he must be. Maybe that's who Maybe that's who Banton is shutting down. The guy who doesn't shoot.
Yeah, maybe.
And the what does John like to call them? The stay ready crew.
The stay ready crew.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just the best nickname.
Damn it, SRCs. Keep those SRCs locked and loaded.
Yeah, they're looking at Lamar like, yo, Ban's got you every time, man. Sorry, like, what you gonna do?
We have a couple injury updates, or at least I hope we have more to wrap this one. But I want to shout out SeatGeek, as Amit told us here. You could have seen the Pats for free with this promo code over the weekend.
SeatGeek would have paid you.
That's what he was talking about.
You would have had some site credit left over.
Yeah, you'd have beer money. You still have some beer money left over.
You would have got fan points or something.
Now you would have saw a horrific game in the rain, but you still could have gone for free.
But there's a lot of good stuff that you actually want to see coming up.
Yeah,
Jimmy, I told you about Travis Scott. That's coming up fast here later this month. Yeah. You got Celtics games. There's a home game on Friday now. I'm sure those tickets are going to roll out now that they've officially set this game. So a lot of that, and they give you your quality deal on here.
The sales team is pumped over at Causeway Street tonight. They get an extra game that
the employees got to figure out. Like, Josue and I were talking to some employees.
Yeah,
who were like, what are we playing?
So you remember that, right? Because literally they stopped Bobby and I mid-conversation to go, wait, if they lose, there's a game here? We're like,
yeah.
Work here? Like, yeah, man. Like,
yeah. You got to come and work this week?
They're going to get an email.
A couple of days if they lose this.
So they're going to get an email tonight,
Yeah, they got that email. They just got that email.
Check it out. You might get a deal tonight. And SeatGeek scores them. Green's great. Yellows and
Lucky's probably calling the crew up, being like, "Yo, can we got another game, guys? Get ready."
Dreamers Pro. You gotta type Dreamers.
Yeah, use Dreamers Pro, and you're gonna get $20 off your first order. I've used SeatGeek for years. It's my go-to. It's a great app, very
Bruins
easy to
tickets
use.
Too.
Lots of good deals. Bruins. You're gonna have a bunch of concerts coming up through the winter if you're traveling. Want to check out the Sphere? You going to Vegas? I'm not. But
that took an hour. The first salty comment from Bobby. Actually, I missed the first 7 minutes, so I'm sure he had a few more comments, salty comments.
That guy, he was a little downtrodden. Joseph.
He was.
It was it was the worst since Game 7 against the Heat. I had the Denver tickets booked, and then third quarter, I'm like, boop.
What hotel were you thinking about staying at?
You had the Denver ticket. You had the finals booked.
Going into Game 7, trying to get a deal.
Okay, that makes sense. I thought you meant when they were they
no.
Game 4, they're coming back.
Going into Game 7, I did the 24-hour thing, so that didn't work. This didn't work either. Hope everyone enjoys Vegas. Indiana versus the Knicks or the Bucks. So go check that out. That's I think that's enough for tonight. Porzingis, I guess a quick injury update on him. He did go on this trip. This is a graphic I got.
Yeah.
Halliburton was
watch him go off in that losers bracket game.
Trip is now over. So
so he's gonna head back home, get a couple practices in. He didn't practice on Thursday, so I think that's why he couldn't go tonight. He posted on Instagram that he was in Latvia, which confused a lot of people, but he wasn't. So he goes on this trip, wasn't quite ready to go. I do think they win this game if he's out there just because of the matchups, but they played on the safe side as they probably should with him. He talked to us last week and said that they're being very cautious with him. This isn't an injury he's had before, of course. You do have worries about other areas in the body being impacted by that strain. So I think he'll be back Friday. And that's what we got on that. I don't think there's anything out there on Holiday. Anything,
No, I'll probably get an update in the morning.
Yeah, and they'll practice this week, so we'll have some reports from there. Any final thoughts, guys, on this one? This was tough for me to watch, and this is a tough loss all around for the Celtics here.
Get the shovel, dig it up, bury this bad boy, and just get ready for the next game. And stay away from them fast food games.
That's right. My final thought
is too many games like that. Go ahead, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
No, you're
Don't
good.
apologize to Jimmy.
Yeah, don't apologize.
That's my guy.
I'm sorry, Sherrod. I didn't let you finish.
He's all right.
Thought.
I'm done, Jimmy.
But I need to do not a full apology, Cam, but I think I will say that I was a little bit more interested in the in-season tournament than I originally thought I was. Because the players bought into it, I think, in some aspects more than I thought they would. I still don't care about the champion of it, but it was a little bit. It was a little bit refreshing to see some different style of play, a little bit more like running up the score. I like that. A little bit more in your face. I like that. I want these teams to remember that later down the season, or maybe
bring that energy.
Bring that energy. I want to bring that energy. If you can make a regular season game and make it just slightly more interesting, I'm all for that. So I'm happy about it overall. I think that the grand prize at the end could be a little bit better or more interesting, but for the first one, I'll say, I'll say I might have been not 100% accurate on my original thoughts. That's the closest to an apology I'll give.
I don't think it was good to be honest with you, but all right, I guess we can call that a semi-apology.
Yeah.
I think going into the next game, we just got to keep a close eye on White and Jrue Holiday. Just see how they respond to what happened. I think it's worth mentioning. It's worth keeping an eye on. I mean, that backcourt is what essentially pushed the Celtics to being championship favorites, if you ask me. Like, it's great for Jrue Holiday, and you didn't give up White, and putting those two together. Obviously, we saw what it looked like in the first 15, 16 games. So we want to see the Celtics return to that. And I think this is a great teaching moment for these guys, right? You look back at this loss, the way it unfolded in that second half. You go through those mistakes, those turnovers, and you correct them. That's what you're supposed to do. You're still one of the top teams in the NBA and still talented enough to obviously get over this. However, looking back on this, I think when it's all said and done, regardless of who wins it all, we're going to look back at the in-season tournaments and say teams like the Pacers and the Kings, again, whether they win it all or not, this is really what this is about. You know what I mean? Like teams like that. I shouldn't say it's what that's what this tournament's about, but those are the type of teams that benefit most. And I think we're seeing that in a big way in this game. Obviously, no Porzingis didn't help the Celtics, but you spiced things up a bit, and I think that really motivated this Pacers team, along with, of course, the huge L you gave them earlier this season. And because of the way things broke down in this in-season tournament, you didn't have home court. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, man, Celtics really, blew this one and shame on them. However, they can learn from this. And like Sherrod said, they're back on the highway to the road to the NBA playoffs and all that good stuff at the end of the regular season, but there's still a lot of basketball left. So let's see if they can turn this around, and hopefully, maybe this could be the start of one of those impressive stretches where they win 12 out of 15 or something like that. Who knows?
Well, you got a tough Knicks team potentially coming up. You got a Bucks team that you similarly punked last time you played them coming up here, and then mini series against the Cavs and Magic before you head out on the road.
That Magic one's going to be a good one, man.
That West
before they head out west. Yeah.
So it's a tough-ish.
That's probably not going to happen, but you're gonna get tested, and I want to see how they respond to that for sure.
Tough-ish stretch coming up for sure, and
they build that
practice here. We could practice coming up, which is needed. They do look a little banged up in that backcourt, Josue. So hopefully those guys get healthy here. Porzingis back. Yeah. They need him badly, and they are not going to win the in-season tournament here. Pacers moving on. They'll play the winner of the Knicks and Bucks, who play tomorrow. They'll play in Vegas on Thursday. And then we got the West game starting right now, too, with the Kings and the Pelicans. What's the score of that game right now?
No idea.
I think the Pelicans are up at the half by 7, I think.
Yeah, 69-61. So we're going to go watch that. Thanks to everybody for joining us. This is a frustrating one. Nice full chat here, though. Appreciate you guys being here as always. Thanks to Sherrod for stopping by. Josue. We'll be back at the Garden on Friday. Jimmy.
Peace.
Catch you soon. Enjoy the week here, everybody. Check out our practice reports, Celtics All Access. We'll tweet out when those are coming up this week. And other than that, we'll catch you again here soon. Celtics lose, eliminated from the in-season tournament, 122-112. This has been the Garden Report Celtics Postgame Show.